Welcome to the Urban Spokesman. My name is Chris Sanders, and I'm giving micromobility users the news they need to stay up to speed on micromobility and urban infrastructure in New York City. All right. So, you know how I think, cars should be, used sparingly and, the right tool for the right job. So, um, you know, so apparently I'm not the only one who who is skeptical of cars. The rats of New York City, they also don't like cars taking up all of the space in New York City. They are eating them from the inside out, and they are costing users a lot of money. So let's look at this New York Times article, and yeah, let's get into it. Why so many cars have rats in them now? Driving in the city is on the rise, but if New Yorkers think they can avoid rats this way, they are in for quite the surprise. I love it. Rats doing God's work. For yes, I said it. Rats doing God's work. Mother Nature saying, no, we need to limit the use of cars. You don't need one person per car. For 8 years, Libby Denault had taken her Prius to the same auto body shop in Brooklyn for tune-ups and other repairs, which always handled it expeditiously. But in 2021, the mechanics at Urban Classics Auto Repair in Bedford Stuyvesant were stumped. The check engine light message kept flashing on the dashboard of Miss Denault's car, despite the vehicle's driving just fine. They did a bunch of tests and couldn't figure out what it was, she said. Finally, they found the source, a rat. It had chewed through the sensor wire. $700. She had to pay $700. Feel sorry for that woman. She having to pay $700. Rats bedding down under the car hoods is nothing new for New Yorkers, but over the past few years, many of the city's auto body shops have seen a number of drivers coming in with rodent related issues climb significantly out of 28 mechanics interviewed throughout the city for this article. 20 of them reported an increase in of vermin in cars, and of those, 10 said the number of such appearances had doubled during the pandemic. I see new cars, old cars. Everyone is coming in with these rat problems, said Ozzy Diane, a mechanic at Manhattan Auto Repair and Hell's Kitchen. It brings me a lot of business, but it's disgusting. And yes, it is disgusting. Rats are disgusting. Yikes. The recent COVID trend of New Yorkers buying cars may share some of the blame. Between the summers of 2019 and 2021, new car registrations went up 19%, according to data provided by the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. And more cars means more nesting opportunities for rats. Rats, uh, they like eating the cars from the inside and out, or being in the cars, scaring the humans away from the cars. Jenna Carpenter Moya is a design strategist in Brooklyn, bought a used car in May 2020 as a way to navigate the city during the pandemic. That summer, she was driving to the Hudson Valley. She noticed that her engine was straining as she made her way up a hill. The check engine light came on. I bought it to my mechanic, who popped the hood and found chicken bones, some bread, part of bacon, an egg, cheese sandwich sitting there. Miss Carpenter Moya said she's paid $1,200 to repair and clean the car, but the battle to keep the rats from picnicking under the hood is now constant, she said. I go through a lot of peppermint oil. So, peppermint oil is one way to somewhat deter the rats for a period of time. It, you know, doesn't work that well, but it does help keep them out of the car. And here is our hero now. Yes, transportation activist of the year, this rat, this New York rat, letting everyone know, don't get too comfortable parking your car on the side of the street right next to a hot load of garbage. Maybe we should just get the streets back to the people, and then we won't have rats everywhere, um, in the car. So during the pandemic, rat sightings have also gone up, or at least more New Yorkers have complained about them. Between 2020 and 2021, the number of calls to the 311 hotline increased by well over 8,000, according to New York City Open Data. Michael H. Parsons, a research scholar from Fordham University and urban expert, is the co author of the 2020 study on increased hotline calls about rodents. When things started shutting down, the rats lost access to their usual food sources, he said. Like other New Yorkers, rats had to improvise and adapt. Rats can adjust to human behavioral shifts very quickly, said Jason Munshi South, a biology professor at Fordham who has conducted research with Dr. Parsons. So, when the pandemic altered our behavior, it impacted the rats as well. Rats would typically stick close to their food sources, but they began taking risks like making brazen midday dashes to piles of trash bags and other potential meals as hangouts. But recently, human behavior has returned to something approaching normalcy. The rats, however, have not reverted to their old habits. They've simply expanded their tactics as they continue foraging through garbage and running off with pizza slices. They may also be exhibiting a higher frequency of rare and unusual behaviors like attacking and feasting on other urban animals like pigeons and even other rats, Dr. Parsons said. Ew, that's interesting. Laura Callie, an archivist in Park Slope, Brooklyn, found evidence of rats in her car this past February. I was disgusted because I didn't really understand how and why they would do that, she said. Then I learned they took then I learned that they look for warmth and they go under the hood if you just parked. It feels really gross to go back in your car and wonder if there's just going to be a family of rats under your hood every time you start your car. Ew. And if you let's think about that for a second. If you start your car and then there are a family of rats in there, and do they explode? Do they burn up? What's going on? Do they just die there in the car? Ooh, yeah, that's pretty interesting. The proliferation of outdoor dining sheds and new soy based insulation for car wiring, basically catnip for rodents, Dr. Parsons said, are other possible causes for increasing number of rats taking their meals in vehicles, according to some researchers and mechanics. So the car wiring thing happened that's not that new of a thing. That happened I believe that happened like a long time ago, like 30, at least 20 or 30 years ago. Um, Charlie Salino, a mechanic at Parkside Auto Care in Park Slope, said that his customers often know when a rat has been rooting around the engine because of obvious signs like feces. But figuring out the extent of the damage requires some investigation. The rats can fit into places that we can't access without taking parts of the engine apart, he said. Sometimes it's a quick fix that I can do in an hour, and sometimes it costs $1,000 to repair all the damage. You don't really know until you get in there. Dr. Parsons said the increased rat activity in cars and everywhere else is a symptom of wider social issues. Our habits determine how many rats are in our area. All those aromas coming from garbage bags, the litter, the crumbs, those are enough to get the ball rolling. It's all about social urban hygiene, Dr. Parsons continued. We have to change the way we think about how we take care of our neighborhoods, and we'll be able to get rid of the rats. All right. Will we be able to get rid of the rats? I don't know. Uh, I do know that other cities are cleaner and maybe they have less rats in their cars. Yeah, we should. I obviously like clean streets, clean, beautiful streets in the black neighborhood, my neighborhood, Harlem. Yes, and where I used to live, like ages ago, when I lived in like San Antonio, all black neighborhood, very clean, very nice, very military. Black people keep their lawns nice, everything. Yeah. So let's look at the reader comments. Oh yeah, and let me know what you think about all this. The rats attacking cars and eating them from the inside out, or living in the cars. And see, that's why I got rid of my car. Well, that's not the main reason, but having a car in New York just isn't practical. And this is more proof. This is, uh, you know, the non-religious God saying that maybe this is not. Maybe having a car in New York City is not the best idea when you have the bike, you have the city bike, you have the scooter, you have uh, the bus, you have the subway, you have all these other options for transportation in New York City, and one person per car is probably not the is is not the most efficient way to use space in New York City. So here, let's see the comments. You can leave some of your own down there. Whatever, add to the conversation. Okay. This has been happening for years in rural and suburban areas as the car and truck manufacturers switch to soybean based insulation on the wires, and the rodents love it. I had to pay $500 to replace a cable several years ago on a Toyota truck. We keep devices in the garage and make high frequency beeps that rodents dislike, and so far, so good. The manufacturers are to blame for a lot of this, and they don't care. Yeah, that seems to be the running theme here is that the manufacturers they made some changes here to the wiring. I wonder, is it cheaper to use that wiring versus the electric tape, or if there's some kind of environmental reason for it. Um, um, this article really undersells the impact of the new wire insulation, turning what used to be a gross annoyance into a very expensive problem. My parents live in rural South Carolina, and even there, ever since getting newer cars, they have been in a constant battle with field mice who suddenly want nothing more than to nibble on the wiring harness. I wish New Yorkers the best of luck. It takes a lot to dissuade a rodent which has found a food source. Wow. Coming from a family who has stored classic cars for decades, Irish Spring soap bars work really well. Keep them in the car trunk, garage if you have it near the car, and use the bar under the hood and rub it on the parts that will not get too hot. Do this every other week or so under the hood, and it should help. I have not had any problems since. Good luck. Wow. More than a decade ago, before I had a camera in my phone, I was rushing to move my car for the sweeper in a chilly, wintry mix of a day, and had to open the hood of my Jeep to check the battery. And to my surprise, there was a chicken bone, the heel of a baguette, and a wine cart sitting on top of my battery. Bread, wine, and chicken. The rats done well in Soho. And the fact that it was more than a decade ago means that, you know, they've been doing this for a while. It's not some new change. So, ooh, let's look at this comment. Uh, this is perhaps a side question, but why does Manhattan have a system of garbage collection that involves placing plastic bags full of refuse directly on the sidewalk? The Times has previously reported on the city's growing rat problem, and easy availability of garbage that contains food is ultimately the source. Reduce food, reduce rat population. Also, why not reduce the eyesore and smelly mess that these plastic bags create? Require the use of garbage bin. Yeah, we need like smell resistant garbage bins, and probably need to transport uh, the garbage more than once a day, but that is very difficult with the amount of motor vehicle traffic that you have in New York and the number of people. But I mean, nothing's impossible. If someone wants to figure out the problem, then, again, I always say people can do whatever they want to. They just have to want to do it badly enough. I mean, if the rats become a problem, or, maybe they're spreading some newfangled disease, I mean, Lord knows they're coming out the woodworks with that. So maybe people will want to do it. But I do think we need to get a handle on the rat problem, and the failed pilot that happened with the garbage bins in Hell's Kitchen. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. We need to be. The Netherlands has a system already in place for handling their garbage. I think we probably need something along those lines, which will require significant investment. I think long term, that is a good thing for the city and for keeping people in the city healthy. So, but in any case, I'm going to wrap this up, and, um, let's make it a great day. Leave a comment, or, on the video. Yeah. So, all right. Have a good night.